thanks everybody for pitching in for some troubleshooting. That's excellent. All right, I'm gonna jump in. So of course, I'm Kathy. Nice to meet you all. I'd love this to be an open session today, really engaging, ask questions, throw out any conversations you want to have. I'd like to make it as personal to you and what's applicable for your businesses as possible. Let me get we're just having some technology issues today. We're gonna get there. And just a quick introduction to Louder AI. That's our company. So Andrew Louder is the owner. He's actually a Vistage member, and he's been in Vistage for several years. I'm not sure how many, but we've been around since 2016, and we've been focused on AI for about 9 years. I just really like to mention that because we didn't just hear AI was a hot topic last fall and jump on that bandwagon. We've actually been in this game for a long time. Picture of our team, unlike this room, it's actually very female heavy, but lots of great people, just a representation of some of the companies that we've been at. You guys want me to pause or waiting for some folks, or?
I think you're good.
Okay, that's okay. I just want to make sure I can.
Yeah, that's good.
There was also some shades, if the shades, I don't know what is helpful for folks.
I think you find for.
Yeah, I can see fine.
Okay, whatever works for you guys.
Maybe we'll wait till these guys return.
That's fine.
Just,
Yeah, before we kind of.
I think we lost Danny and Austin.
Hard to keep you guys focused in this room. Pretty good there.
I've heard ChatGPT. You're gonna go over.
Sorry, I missed the first part.
I've heard the ChatGPT and that you're gonna go over some of that.
Yes.
Are you gonna go over other AI platforms?
Not really. So I'm happy to tell you what we're gonna do. But when I go through ChatGPT, my goal is to show you some features you haven't played with. I'm actually about to ask you guys what your experience level is.
Okay.
I'm sure most of you have played with ChatGPT, so my goal is not to make it super rudimentary, but to introduce you to some of the other features. And I'm going to mention some of the other tools, but we're not going to dig into them the same way. So we'll just go ahead and start. Is that okay? Or should
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is just spend a couple of minutes going around the room. You can give yourself a score on your AI knowledge and comfort, how you are in AI, and give me just put a couple lines about if you use AI and how you use AI, and it'll just help me make sure I really bring the most for you guys today as possible. So, do you want to start?
Andy?
Yeah, well, I spent like 20 years in T.
Yeah.
So I think with Gen AI, I have a portion of my team that does Gen AI.
Great.
I am quite familiar, but it's an evolving space, so I have to learn all these.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm James, I'm probably like a, not super, tech savvy guy.
That's good.
I actually use chat
Okay.
a ton. We have in the company, I have a Teams
Perfect.
version, paid version. I have, I think, all my leadership teams, so I think there's 6 or 7 of us.
Okay.
And we've been using it quite a bit, but a lot of it's just like probably research or like reviewing documents, and I've been actually trying out estimating with it.
Yeah.
Off pictures. Actually, yeah, incredible. I'll have some questions for
Perfect.
you on this. Like,
Super.
So yeah.
Thank you. It's helpful.
Similar experience,
Okay.
similar amount of people.
Okay, use the Teams environment as well.
Yeah, the
Okay.
team environment of the chat. I would say that we find areas, of course, we're starting to get better at the sense of where we find the same teams full.
Perfect.
And areas where you just want to throw everything out the window.
It happens.
So I'm very interested to try to understand how to limit those moments.
Okay. Hopefully I'll address some of that. If not, I'm happy to chat with you more about that. Yes.
Daryl, Kelly Candy, we have a part of our business is technology, so we have people that work full-time in this sort of area. In terms of my own use, I use it every day.
Great.
We have the ChatGPT Teams version as well. And I have my own personal version, paid version too. Use it for a variety of things, reviewing legal documents, contracts. I use it as sort of like an intern in the sense of if I need to learn something really quickly, I'll just get like a kind of a summary, just to get a feel for it. And we use it a lot for proofing text as well. A lot of our proposals and stuff, coming up with better ways of wording things, or having it review proposals and match that against the RFP itself to see, like, here's the RFP, here's proposal. do they line up? And I found that really useful.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I use it somewhat infrequently with paid subscription, but just when things come up.
Sure.
And it's helpful. Every now and then you get some weird responses, but keep trying with it. So what I have used it for is a lot of writing. I hate writing, like write a letter or something. I don't like editing stuff anymore.
It's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm Dave. Yeah, I have a paid team subscription. I'm on it probably 3 or 4 hours a day. I love
Perfect.
contracts, project management.
Okay.
Negotiating and the right cultural tone to people overseas.
Fantastic.
A little bit of design, and then my marketing team leverages it pretty heavy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
But I talked to Brian, and he said he got some cool stuff.
Okay, good. I hope so. Okay,
He
good.
was-
He was in here
Yes,
yesterday. Okay,
yeah.
not here.
He was
Great.
very excited.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. So, everyone's just telling you a little bit about their AI knowledge, how you use it.
Yeah, I use it daily. One I feature I really like is just like the voice to text
Yes.
feature, and there's a lot of compliance in my world, so I
Okay.
can't use. I have a system, I use client names, but I
Okay.
can still use it for like notes and conversations. And then just a lot of content writing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's very helpful, guys. Thank you very much. I have to say, this is the room with the most team subscriptions I've ever encountered. Usually that's a big part of what I talk about is why you should do that. So we'll go through that real quickly. Obviously, we won't dwell on something you guys already know about. So I like to set the stage with this story. So we worked with a client in the Dallas area, criminal defense law firm. And they came to us and they just said, you know, we're doing everything very much the old fashioned way. We feel like there must be some room for some efficiencies. We just don't know what they are. So as we go in and we get to know a company, the first thing we try to do is find pain points and tedious processes that AI might be able to be a solution for. And I'm going to talk more about that process later on, give you guys some tools to lead and hopefully use at your own companies. But as we got to know them, the first thing that we discovered that was glaringly obvious is that there's a process called e-discovery that they were spending about 1,000 hours per case, manual labor. So in that e-discovery process, it's gathering up electronic data, you know, financial statements, emails, text messages, any video that could be from your Ring camera, just personal, whatever. They've got to sort through all of it, find anything that could help defend their client. So you can imagine this is not very satisfying work. It's very tedious, very stressful. All these folks are just sitting there sorting through this data all the time. So we came to them and said, there are existing AI solutions for e-discovery on the market. Let's find a couple that would be a good fit for your requirements and run them through a test phase. So we brought back 3. And when we run through a test and demo phase, it's not kind of the dog and pony show from the sales team. We take actual data and we run it through that system to see if it works for their processes and to give the kind of results that they're looking for. And at the end of that, they chose a system called the Next Point. It took about 6 weeks from the time we got to know their company to Next Point being installed, so a relatively short amount of time. And the way that system works is they take all the electronic data, and they often start at night because of the time it takes, load it into the system and process it, runs overnight, like I said. When you come back, it's got a list, so basically like a checklist. We think this is important, not important, and you go through and you just check each one, yes, 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 or no, tell it to run again. You repeat that process over and over again until you're confident in the output and that it's caught all the data that's relevant to your case. What we found is that the human intervention in that oversight went from about 1,000 hours to about 40 hours, which is massive, right? It feels like, I always say kind of like voodoo magic, right? They're not made up numbers, these are real. But what I'd really like you to think about is how that changes the human interactions for that team, right? They're no longer sitting around the table stressed out about electronic data. They're able to redeploy themselves for more strategic projects, potentially take on more clients. Obviously, that has a direct revenue impact. They've even got a paralegal who went back to school to become a lawyer, come practice at the firm. So really big impact on the employee satisfaction and job satisfaction and performance in the company. What we also find is that, you know, like I said, they take on more clients, has a direct revenue impact, but there's also, lost my train of thought there for a second, but you know, it's also a relatively low cost way to increase your capacity without having to add any additional employees. So as I said, they were able to take on more work with this. I'd like you to just sort of throw out a number, the kind of savings in time, the kind of capacity gain that they're getting. What do you think a system like that would cost for a business? Let's say they have 100 users, It's an annual subscription fee. Just take a guess. I know you need more information to make a really great
$100
guess.
a month.
So what you say?
$100 a month a user?
Okay, so $100 a month, $100,000 a month,
10,000.
a year.
10,000.
A month.
100,000.
Sorry,
Yeah.
10,000.
my math brain's not working this morning.
10,000 a month.
Thank you. So we're at $120,000. Okay. Any other guess? That's okay. It was $22,000 a year. So $22,000 a year, relatively low cost, like I said, relatively quick implementation and big direct impact, felt very quickly. So that's just a picture I want to paint for you what's possible with a lot of the AI solutions that exist in the marketplace today, that they can come in and really impact your business quickly. And
Can I throw something out, or is it too
please, no, please.
And I'm so curious to hear more too about Danny doing the contracts, but ChatGPT, that's these AI is a big. What about the reliability level in terms of some of that? Because I've gotten screwed more times than accounts with one around really trusted in some areas. You're not absolutely perfect sometimes on the problem. You don't get what you want. So now you just took 1,000 hours of somebody who's probably pretty well trained, especially if they're the top law firm. People aren't stupid. I've met some of them and I'm like, gee, you sound like an attorney. And now you just replace them with an AI for 22,000 a year on 100 people. And I'm thinking, is it really as good quality of work, or is somebody missing something?
Great question. I want to maybe clarify, I might not have been really clear. That particular product is focused only on the e-discovery component. So all it's doing is sorting through electronic data.
And putting them in buckets.
Exactly. And then
Okay.
the thing that I should have been also more clear about, thank you, is that the human oversight component of that is the key, right? The fact that the human has to come in and review what the model has said is important or not and indicated yes or no. That is what we feel like is one of the most important parts of AI. Human oversight should not go away. You shouldn't just trust it implicitly. But in these particular tools, it's not meant to take the place of an actual lawyer doing lawyering things. It's just meant to help with that like tedious task of sorting through all of that data.
Well, one thing we've been doing is take our contracts that we've written or had our lawyers write, build them into our GPT, then take our contracts that we are changing or we're getting new from people and we're saying, compared to this, show me the differences. So I can understand, like, are there areas of issue, then we have to make the edits.
Yeah. Well, thank you for more clarification. At the same time, I've done things like loaded HOA, condo association contracts, hundreds of pages of data and asked it for something as simple as find this. Freaking lied to me. Then I didn't find that out till later. And then I was like, okay, it's just me a few times on something that seemed very simple to go gather.
Yes.
So I guess I'm just not challenging this. I'm just
No.
trying to understand
So
how you know.
how long ago was that? Out of curiosity.
That's a good question.
Like the past
60 days.
60 days, so relatively recently. Okay, the reason I asked, two things I'd like to say.
Because it's 10 times smarter.
Well, it changes, unfortunately, yeah, it changes very quickly. I'm gonna mention a product a little bit later that's specifically focused on contracts and the legal space, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But when you talk about big documents and ChatGPT going through them, it can get overwhelmed. So what we find in our, is more anecdotal, like business conversations, is like, I use a lot of really huge reports, like there's a 500-page AI report that I was using recently to make a webinar from. It got pretty overwhelmed. But what I found helps me a lot in that kind of scenario where I'm trying to dig in, find insights, is I always ask for references. So I always say, like, give me my outline and then say what page it's on. And that way it's just easy for me to check it. And I started doing that even with web searches and things like that. It's just provide a link or provide the reference point for me as well. That helps.
It also forces it to be
Exactly.
specific and actually
Exactly.
get it rather than
Yes.
general.
Yes.
For you.
Yes, and then I sometimes will even say, I'm sorry, Steve. I sometimes will even say, as I read through it, I've clicked in, I've looked at the reference, doesn't make sense to me, and I've said, I don't understand this doesn't make sense, and sometimes it comes back and it says, great catch, Kathy, which makes you really nervous. But, that's why you spend that time, that's why the human oversight is so important. So, I'm sorry, Pat, what were you gonna?
The work that it was replacing that law firm
Yes.
wasn't legal work, though. It was work that like a paralegal was doing. Like,
Yes, now, I mean, some lawyers have to get in there too, right? Depends on how much capacity everybody's got, everyone's throwing their time in it, but yes. That is the sorting through, it is the tedious task, and so, it's not the optimized lawyer time, but it's still gotta be done. And, I guess I blew through that story too quickly, and I didn't mention all the key details, but sometimes people ask, well, what about their billable hours? So I know none of us are crying for lawyers billable hours, but they actually just added it as a new line item, like e-discovery processing is part of your legal fees. And so now we can bill you for those 40 hours. That's a manageable bill time versus they can't charge it for 1,000 hours. It's not practical.
Actually, in my understanding, with your question, I think there are two things. One, you need to ask the right questions.
And we'll talk more about that too.
Which, yeah, which is to some extent related to prompts, but I would say it is even before prompts, you need to know what information, right? And then the checks after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about that as well, but yeah, you're right on, those concerns are valid and they're accurate.
I have a squirrel.
Sure.
Squirrel.
Okay,
But still on topic.
Okay.
I was thinking about the liability perspective from a lawyer. Is there that insurance that these lawyers can get in case their AI is wrong and it fucks over a client or? Sorry, right?
no, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I'll try and find out. I think, I don't know the answer to that, but I also think that that's why you have to have the human oversight. Like if you were just trusting that technology to do it all for you and do it right, you're gonna go down a bad path.
Yeah.
No matter if it's law or something else. So it's really gotta come back to the humans to check it. And yeah, that's what we really drill home, so, yeah. Quickly, what I'm gonna go over today, I wanna really set the stage that this is meant to be a foundational business AI class, right? It's not super technical. I wanna hopefully teach you some things about ChatGPT, show you some things you haven't seen, give you some new ways to work with ChatGPT and those tools. I also wanna introduce some other tools that you may or may not be using in your business. Does anyone here already use Microsoft 365 Copilot? It's an upgrade to the Microsoft system. Okay, so me.
I think we use it some, like, I don't
Okay.
use it in what I know we have a subscription, but I don't know if it's like, there's an upgraded paid subscription that we're not using. But
Okay.
my interaction with Copilot has been
Negative.
not.
Same.
Okay.
I would love it if it was just right there and it was like chat, sweet, but it's been.
So,
for me,
okay,
it's been-
I'm gonna talk about it a little bit and just give you kind of an overview of what that is, why you might want to consider an upgrade and what that would mean to your company. And then the second half, we're gonna dig into, I guess that's the second half as well, but we're gonna dig into other business functions. So I'm gonna show you some examples of what AI solutions look like in different business functions in your company. And that's when we'll see that contracts solution. There's an RFP solution. I've got some estimating and bidding tools to show you. So just a kind of preview of what we'll dig into there. And then we'll wrap up the day with me giving you some questions, the same questions we come and ask our new clients. How do we find those pain points, those tedious tasks, and how can that set you down the path for strategic AI implementation and set you up for success? So I'll leave you with tools that you can take back to your company and get to work on right away, hopefully. So what is AI? I asked ChatGPT this question. It gave me a page long response. Use it to go to sleep at night sometimes. But when I refined my question and said 25 words or less, for a business audience, this is the definition that it gave me. So technology that automates tasks, makes predictions, and generates insights from data. And what I think is really important to think about here is that AI is not simple automation, right? Automation is almost like AI's dumb cousin. It takes a task and it does it over and over again, but no additional insight or predictive behaviors are added, no intelligence. So what separates AI is it brings that human-like intelligence to the process or to any kind of analysis or even creating predictions. Like that is truly what sets AI apart. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Just, believe it or not, use AI every day. You'll be very familiar with these examples. And just to set the stage, smart personalized streaming recommendations. These are AI recommendation engines. Your Netflix, your Amazon screen looks totally different from anyone in this room. It's optimized based on your preferences and obviously what's most profitable for them. That's AI at work. Commuting and path planning, taking real-time traffic data, making sure you get there as quickly as possible. Self-driving vehicles. These are basically, AI super-powered machines on wheels. Do any of you use the self-driving Teslas or, yeah, so a couple of you. Do you have the little weights that you put on the steering wheel? Everyone in LA was telling me about the weights they put on the steering wheel, so they don't even have to touch the wheels. So I heard this great stat the other day. These self-driving vehicles, there's a wreck every 1 in 6 to 7 million miles. Versus with a human driver, it's 1 in every 200 to 300,000 miles. So we always worry about the safety, but I've got a new 16-year-old on the road and maybe I need to get her a self-driving car. Voice assistants, Siri, Alexa, all this stuff. They take what you say, natural language processing, convert your language to bits and bytes in code, they do the work for you, and then they give it back to you in natural language generation. All of those are forms of AI. And of course, these are early places where we saw it. We're seeing it now with ChatGPT and some of these other interfaces that we use as well. And the last one, smart homes. I'm sure many of you have Ring cameras or Nest modules that make it cold at night, warm it up in the morning when you get up, or tell you when a package has been delivered. It's machine learning at work. And I know you're familiar with all of these. I just like to paint the picture there. You're using AI every day. It already exists in our daily life and obviously our business lives as well. You guys all mentioned you're actively using AI now, which most of you ChatGPT, which is fantastic, gets you down that path. So the days of AI truly being intimidating and unattainable are over. So what happened in late 2022? That's when ChatGPT hit the scene. So before that, there was generative AI that existed, but you needed to be a coder or be able to do API development and integrations to be able to make that technology work. But ChatGPT changed everything when it launched with a simple text interface. It looks like what we're used to on our phones or anything else. And you could just start asking it questions for free, no subscription required, and get going with it. And it's really started an arms race in AI. These statistics are relatively recent. They're all from this year. This is from Salesforce.com. 91% of small and medium-sized businesses say that using AI, say that technology has boosted their revenue. So very direct impact to their revenue with a strong AI implementation. And likewise, 50% of small and medium-sized businesses have realized financial savings with a strong AI implementation. And those things are in parallel. You can definitely, and you should definitely experience both with a good implementation. This is a little bit of an older statistic, 37% increase in labor productivity because of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I still think this is a relevant statistic because 37%, when you break it down, if you have 100 folks in your company, you're saving 37% of their time. Let's assume it's a 2,000-hour average work year. That's equivalent to 74,000 hours saved in a year, or 37 extra full-time employees that you've added to your staff with no additional overhead in terms of salary. The other way I like to break that down is 37% is about 2 of your 5-day work week. So imagine adding 2 extra days to your work week. And I like to ask people what they would do with that time, right? I mean, some people are like, I'm gonna play golf, I'm gonna go on vacation. And that's fantastic, but it also opens up a lot of capacity. There's a lot of strategic projects I'm sure you have on your list that you'd like to get to. And there's always a fire going out. There's always something that's more urgent and takes up our time. So I think one way to really think about how to leverage AI and the productivity it gives you is how to take on the strategic projects that can give you the growth you're looking for. Last statistic, and we'll jump into more of the fun stuff. 82% of executives say AI increases job satisfaction and enhances performance. And I think this is a really important conversation because I know for a couple of years, there's been a lot of fear mongering around AI is taking all the jobs, they're all going to go away. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that AI is going to impact and change and evolve very many jobs. Some will go away for sure. But I think that what we're faced with is a challenge that's more about upskilling and redeploying our employees rather than facing their extinction. How are they going to need to manage those AI tools? Like, what are the tools they need to be able to do that effectively and in a timely way? So, I think just really refocusing our concern and our shift to recognize that most people really feel like AI brings a lot to the table and enhances their job performance is valuable. So when we shift to generative AI, that's a subset of AI that's completely focused on just generating new content of all kinds, right? The first experiences we have with ChatGPT were all text. Many of you mentioned you love for it to just generate your emails, your documents. Like, I agree with you. I love that as well. But now generative AI is doing everything digital that you can imagine. So videos, music, architecture, really there's generative AI for all of these different spaces, and it's getting better every day. This is a fun chart. On the bottom, the x-axis is time to reach 1 million users, and that's in days. And along the y-axis is online services. So it starts with Netflix at the bottom, and that's about a 1,300-day bar. That's about 3.5 years. So I know I remember getting those Netflix DVDs in the mail. It was a really great day, a lot of fun. But even with that evolution in technology, it still took them 3.5 years to get to 1 million users, which was pretty darn fast at the time, right? As we go up, there's big services, Twitter, Facebook, Dropbox, Spotify, Instagram. At the very top is ChatGPT. It took them 5 days to get to 1 million users when they launched in that late 2022 timeframe. It really means ChatGPT is the fastest spreading piece of technology on Earth, and they continue to be growing at that same rate or even faster. They relaunched their image generation tool in the spring, and when they relaunched that, everyone was very hot on it. They added another 1 million users in 5 hours. So they're growing leaps and bounds all the time with the new technology that they're bringing. I have this slide created just to mention there's obviously a lot of players in the marketplace. ChatGPT is the market leader. They are highly versatile, can be used for almost every use case. Really considered kind of the best in class UX, and they've got great enterprise integrations. I would look at Claude next as being one of the strongest competitors to ChatGPT. It really excels with that long format text, so longer documents, things like that. Claude is very strong there. It's known for thoughtful replies. I don't know how to define that. That's just what they're known for. But really specializing there, legal education, coders love Claude. Although ChatGPT's just released a new tool called Codex this week, and it's really shifting the game underneath Claude. So Perplexity is an AI powered search engine. People love it for research, any kind of searching and analysis. They're really focused on kind of deep research right now. Grok, it's call it real time, culturally tuned to X. Of course, that's Elon Musk's tool. It's really great even in business applications. I mean, I kind of focus it here on brand monitoring and trend spotting, but it is great for a wide variety of business applications and video. It's getting better every day. Has a very unique personality. Have any of you played with it? So there's a mode called unhinged mode, and it's not safe for work, but you guys are CEOs, you know what you want. So but anyway, Grok is fun. It's got its own personality as well. Welcome. Mistral is a tool based out of France. It's an open source tool. It's known for being very fast. So developers, teamers, startup folks love Mistral. It can be locally based as well. And so that's a great tool. Always want to mention DeepSeek because it's made a lot of news this year. They train their model for a lot less money. Much less expensive, has really opened people's eyes to what can be done. It is based in China, so we worry about data safety and security when we talk about DeepSeek. So it's not one that we recommend to our clients, but it is out there. If you want to play with it, you should. It's good to experience that. We often get asked which of these we recommend. We like ChatGPT. It really does seem to do everything. We play with a lot of these. We have our foot in a lot of the doors, but ChatGPT is the one I come back to the most. So no right or wrong. They just have different personalities. Play with them and find what you might like. I forgot to mention, I know you're taking notes and obviously feel free to do that. Later on, there's going to be a little bit of a quiz and AI readiness assessment, and you can put your email address in and check a box. I'll be happy to send you all these slides. You're welcome to share them with your folks as well. So I just want to mention.
So today's presentation are focusing on generative AI or using agentic AI or outside?
I'm going to go through a little bit of agentic AI. Yes. Great question. Okay, so what ChatGPT subscription is right for us? I know you guys actually, like I said, most of you are on team. I'll go through just very high level what those differences are in case you're not familiar with them. Of course, there's a free version. You need to really worry about the free version because by default, all your data is shared with OpenAI. And the concern that we have there is what's happening in your company, right? If your folks don't have the correct license for ChatGPT, they're still most likely using it. I mean, we're human. We know people like to find shortcuts and get things done more quickly. You just need to make sure that none of that confidential data, anything that could be used, in a competitive manner could make it out into the models to be trained. So that's our concern with the free model. Personal model or personal subscription is $20 a month. You can change that sharing feature. You can share if you like, or you can turn that off and keep your data secure, just not train the model based on your data. So that's obviously a step in the right direction. You get more access to the better models. You get some deep research queries. You get some of the Sora, which is the video creation, Canvas. You get you get a little bit of everything. So it's like a self-help plan. Like we're adding features as we go. The next one is that Teams model that many of you mentioned. And what changes with the Teams model is it creates like a walled garden, a business application the way we're used to today, right? So your Microsoft installation is separate from yours, You're not worried about data security. That changes. That is fundamentally different in the team subscription. So your team can interact with each other. Your data is secure. If you want to upload financial documents, you want to upload draft measurements or bids that you're evaluating, it's secure now. It will not be shared with OpenAI. You can't even turn that feature on. And you can interact with folks that are in your company to share that data. Yeah.
How confident I know they say that,
Yeah,
but then like uploading this document, they're like. Yeah, they can say this is. Curious, you guys are.
we feel confident about it. I don't work for them, but we do feel confident about it. I use it often for our internal data and numbers, so, can I vouch for them? I don't know, but I mean, I think we have to, to recognize that they are in this space and they are saying that that's secure, so yes, we feel confident about that. That is done on a per seat basis, so you can buy as many as you want for your company, or as few, you only need 2 to have that team subscription, and that runs $25 to $30 a month, just based on if you want to commit to an annual subscription or go month to month. Above that's a pro model, that's $200 a month. You lose the Teams interaction when you go to pro, so but it does come with the newest features. So Teams is going to give you more deep research, it's going to get you better access to all the models, and Pro is going to give you all the access to the models, the newest agentic features. It's really geared and focused towards heavy research corporations or academia. So most of us just don't need that level of subscription, but it exists. And the final level would be enterprise, companies much larger than most Vistage companies, so outside the scope of what most of us would use. So I'd love to jump into ChatGPT, give you a little bit of a demo if that works for you guys. And then throw out questions as we go, and we can modify kind of the prompts I'm going to share with you, and make it kind of what works for this room. Okay, I'm gonna start. Let's pull up a window here. Okay, I have some prompts prepared. If the folks that I have prepared on my prompts are not in the room, I'm more than happy to change it. But this one says, I'm going to start with deep research. So I want to start with deep research. It's one of the beginning agentic tools that ChatGPT has launched, and it will basically go out, it will do the research that I'm requesting, and I'll read this to you in a second, and then compile that into a report. And I really think these reports are like a 30-40 hour amount of human work type of report and output. So it can save you a lot of time. It can bring up things you hadn't thought of. So is Alliance Nursing here?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. So my prompt says, I'm the COO of Alliance Nursing, and I said, learn about me here. I put your link. Located in Seattle, Washington. If anything's wrong or I need to change it, just let me know. We provide pediatric and adult private duty nursing for patients with medically intensive needs. We also have 3 small group homes that provide a family setting for medically complex patients. I just took that off your website. I'm considering expanding into a new high growth market in Idaho. If you want something else, I'm happy to put something else, or if you just don't care, it's fine too. Okay. Provide an in-depth analysis of the current market conditions in the state, including market size, growth trends, key competitors, potential customer segments, and important factors or barriers I should consider before entering this new market. And conclude with strategic recommendations on whether or not this expansion would be advisable and where the best expansion location could be. So the main thing here is you want to click the deep research button, and you'll see as I hover over it, it says I have 19 available until June 12th. You do get a limited number. They expand that pretty regularly. So about every month, I seem like I get more. But use deep research when use it with a little bit of thought. Don't use it for your casual inquiries, since you have a limited number. This will take about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to hit go. Deep research almost always comes back and asks some clarifying questions before it starts doing its research. So if you want to just throw out some answers, if you don't really care, we'll just put some in. Okay, to create a comprehensive market analysis for your potential expansion into Idaho, could you please clarify a few things? Are you considering expanding both private duty nursing and group homes, or just one of these services? Okay. Do you have a particular region or city in Idaho in mind? Or Boise? Okay. Are there any specific regulatory or funding programs you already work with that we should account for? Medicaid. Okay. And what's your timeline for this expansion?
1 year.
Okay. Oops. A little space here. It doesn't really care about misspellings, grammar, stuff like that. It's usually fine. Occasionally it'll come back and ask me for a little bit more clarification, but usually it just says, thanks for the details, and I'll conduct an in-depth analysis, blah, blah, blah. And then it's, got this little window that says starting research. So I'm just going to let this run. We don't even have to leave it open because it's running, on the cloud, but I'll just leave it here in the background and we'll flip over to another tab.
So that says ChatGPT
Yeah.
4.0, but you're saying that that's higher level model, or what is that?
It's actually more of a specialized feature. It's kind of like a specialized tool within ChatGPT. And you can even change the model. I think 4.0, and I was doing some research on this the other day. I think 4.0.
Okay, I'm just making sure I'm looking like I have the same. I have the 4.0.
Yeah, no, you probably do. And so of course, you can just click here. I leave it on the default almost every single time. But some of the research I was doing recently said 4.5 is particularly good for writing. So I have tried it for some writing tasks, and I did find it to be better. So that's just a good kind of feather to put in the back of your cap. That one's helpful for that. I haven't tried it yet for deep research to compare the outputs, but so even if I switch, let's just try it 4.5. Deep research is still available. And so you just click the button, it turns blue.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
The deep research.
Yes.
I didn't.
Do deep research.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so it's a really neat tool. So we'll explore that output in just a minute. I'm gonna just kind of go back to all the defaults here. And I'm gonna show you what I would consider a very typical, straightforward chat with ChatGPT. And the reason I want to start here, even though you've probably done something like this, is because I want to show the the iterative nature, but then also show you what's different in some of the other tools. So I'm not trying to think you haven't done this. I just want to, there's a reason for it. Okay, I'm a leader of Neptune Food. Learn about me here, and I've got the website. I need help with creating key performance indicators that we should track monthly. Create this table of KPIs. So, a lot of people, and I know it was kind of revelatory to me when I started playing with this, that it could create a table. I just think that's really cool. It can create tables, charts, like all kinds of different outputs. If any of you guys have ever gone to your sales managers and asked them to, create a table of KPIs, I don't know if they brought something back. Sometimes I hear they never came back. But again, what I think we're going to see here is, this is funny. This is what I was doing yesterday, Steve, remember? Usually, it'll just give me a nice table and keep going. And yesterday it was having some stumbles as well. So you can see it's kind of got my table just in pipes here, but not actually as a full table. So the first thing I'm going to just say is fix the table. And sometimes that does it, and sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to find out. Okay, so here's its draft for Neptune Seafood monthly KPI table. So it gives a sales and revenue set of KPIs. It's given us 3 columns: KPI name, description, and why it matters. So things like monthly revenue, sales by channel, average order value, customer retention rate. So we'll just keep going down. Operations and fulfillment, it's got another 5 or 6 items there. Sustainability and quality, marketing and branding, finance and profitability, people and culture. So is this perfect? Is this exactly what you should track every month? I'm not suggesting that it is, but it hopefully gives you a really great place to start that conversation. And that's where I think ChatGPT is so powerful, is just giving you that you're not staring at a blank page anymore. You've got a place to start. So, a couple of things that it can do, and it usually does very well, is I'm going to ask it, let me add the second prompt. Okay, I'm going to ask it, please combine into one table and add KPIs that should be tracked quarterly. So I do this type of query very often, as I talk to groups, and it gives me a different table every single time. And so when you ask it a question like this without it, clearly defining what you're looking for in your output, it can be variable. Sometimes that's great because what you're looking for is just ideation and you want to, expand your mindset. Sometimes that's not great. Sometimes you want a really specific type of output. And you can see here it's beginning to combine, and it has added the frequency column, M or Q. But let's see if we can get it to behave. So this little button turns into a stop sign while it's running. And then it'll change back into what looks like a little voice interaction, sound bar kind of a thing when it's finished. Sometimes when it messes up, I just push stop and then I start typing. Let's just try it again. Fix the table. So I've had recently very high quality outputs with these kinds of queries in the tables, but in the past couple of days, I've had really unpredictable, poor outputs. So there is always an unpredictability with these tools, and especially with ChatGPT, we don't know what's always going on in the background. So this is less than desirable for sure. Let's try something else. Can you make this a Google Sheet? So ChatGPT used to offer this, and you would export your data and you'd load it into Excel or Google Sheets, whatever, and it would give you the column headings and the rest would be blank. It has recently been doing a really good job. Now, I have not ever done it with poor output like this. So I just thought, let's try it and see if it'll work today for us. And it is usually quite a bit quicker than this. All right, here we go. Let's just download this. And I'll open up a new. There we go. Okay. I'm just going to go to import and I'll bring that file over and we'll see if it worked today. See if it was able to put all of that into a table format. So I don't think that's everything that it was supposed to be. It's only got sales and revenue, operations and fulfillment, sustainability and quality, marketing and brand. So there were clearly some that are missing. And I don't know if it's because it's just misbehaving with this output or if that's where I stopped it and that's the reason. But it's not a really fun demo when it doesn't work, but I'd really like to at least show you the point. So
Sometimes I find that some people with technology, if they're in the room, it just won't work.
exactly. So okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward because I think you guys get the gist. This is the iterative way we're all used to using ChatGPT. It's kind of like the traditional interface. Anytime you want to start a new query and you want it to not use the data you've been using before, obviously just click that little ChatGPT button, you get a clear window. So I'm going to change gears here. I want to show you a tool called Canvas. So to get to Canvas, click the little three dots, and in the drop down is a tool called Canvas, and it just puts a little blue canvas in front of whatever you type in. I'm going to say, learn about my company, Weeboo Systems USA. I've got the URL, and then create a job description for a senior level accounting manager that we need to hire. Is Weeboo here? No. Anybody else have a job description they want me to do, or we'll just do this?
A job search?
Yeah. Controller. Here, I've got your stuff handy. We'll just even change this. Okay, here we go. So I had Canvas posted, listed, and you can see it pops up in that little window, and then it changes the screen. So the text kind of window interface where you can type moves over here to the left. And then everything that it's putting into the main window is basically what they call their canvas. And what's really different here is that it's almost like it's a Word document that you can edit live. So let's just take a look at what it says, like job title controller. It's got some basic information, probably got from your website, about Alliance Nursing Inc., position summary. It's going to use things like LinkedIn and any MBA textbooks or Indeed that it kind of has access to, and it's going to use that type of data to fulfill or to input all of these requirements. So what I mean by you can just go ahead and edit live. So this says minimum of 5 years. I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to say we want 7 years. So you can just edit this live. And the other thing, one of the things that I think really sets Canvas apart is that you can do things like this. Highlight a section, you get a pop-up that says Ask ChatGPT, and it's got some formatting. Those are pretty straightforward. But if you click in the ChatGPT, you get a new, pop-up window you can type into. So I'm going to just say expand this. And then what happens is instead of like in the iterative format we were seeing before, it giving you a whole nother output, which sometimes is completely different from what you had before. This is going to edit what we have on screen, but in this case, only edit the section that we have highlighted. So everything else should stay the same, but it will kind of keep working with us and iterating on this particular document. And so you can kind of see it, do it live, which is really nice. And then everything else stayed exactly the same. So if there's a section we really liked or that was exactly the way we wanted it, that doesn't go away. That just allows us to make specific tweaks and changes. Up here in the top right corner, you can have it show you the changes. If you wanted to check and see what it did, you weren't sure. You can undo them. You can redo them. This is a copy button that exists on a lot of the different formats, and then you can share it with a link to anybody internal in your team. That's another feature of the Teams interface. Down here on the right is this little pencil button. And so it says suggest edits. Where these types of tools really excel is in editing itself and iterating on its own like output and content. So if you were doing, for example, maybe a blog post, or you were submitting something to a journal for submission or reporting, suggesting edits is a great way to kind of have it keep cleaning itself up and do better. If you move up, you've got adjust the length. This is a great tool. Again, things like blog posts or output, you can just drag the slider down, make it shorter, make it longer with just the click of a button. So that's really helpful. One that's neat that we kind of take for granted is reading level. So kind of has a default reading level, but you can make it more advanced. So it's a controller. So let's tell it we want the college level. You can also drag down and go to things like kindergarten level or high school level if it's a job that might, have a different set of requirements. So it's going to go through and it's going to edit probably vocabulary and make the sentence structure a little bit longer and just more complex. So really great way to edit on the fly and not have to necessarily do all of that editing yourself. And you can see each of these like key responsibilities, for instance, is much longer, more detailed.
Just a question.
Mhm.
I use AI to generate text all the time.
Yeah.
But I hate AI generated text.
Yeah.
And I can sniff it out really quick.
Right.
If you were to dump this into like zero GPT or something like that, would it come up as AI written, or like, are there tools in there that say make it not like AI written? You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's so obvious, right? To me,
Sometimes it is so obvious, and some things I don't have a like yes or no answer to you on that, but I think that's a really great point. And some of the things that you can do to help it are to be really clear either in your prompt or your personalization in ChatGPT about who you are, how you speak, what your role is, things like that, like define that persona.
Right.
That helps. The other thing, one of the things that I've done, let me show you. If you come up, you've got this little icon, mine's an L because that's our company, so you can tell I'm in my team's account. And you come to customize ChatGPT. It's got this area where you can give it your name, what do you do? So I've got kind of like this is the way I speak, blah, blah, blah. But I've also added this. I really hate those dashes and emojis. And so I actually asked ChatGPT, and it's a dead giveaway, like you said, those long dashes. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, give me a prompt that that will tell like that I can put in so that you'll remove those dashes. And so it created this prompt for me. And I also said avoid using emojis. So, so you can make some changes like that. They're small, but they do help. It doesn't seem to give me. Yeah, it doesn't seem to give me.
But I didn't think about that kind of aspect.
Yeah, again, is that going to solve all the problems? No, but
You know
it
what
might
I've
help
learned
get you
about
down that path.
is,
Yeah.
Send you messages that you know how they talk. You can spot it.
Yes.
Spot your own. But what I've learned is other people can't spot you if they don't know how you talk.
True.
So I ran into people who are like, man, that was a great email you sent out that last meeting or something. I'm like, that dude has no idea you should chat on that thing. Where the rest of my team knows that.
Right.
So it's interesting how you got to train it to you if you want.
Absolutely.
But outside your team, they don't even know it.
Absolutely.
Unless
And
it's crazy off the
Right,
wall.
right.
Very-
yes. And it's great for those longer format things where you're like, I need to say all this stuff, but yeah.
How did you get this window? I've seen this window.
This is called Canvas. So let me close here. So when you're in your prompt area, click the 3 buttons and click Canvas. And then it'll change to that interface. And like I said, what's great there is that you're then working on one specific document and interface that won't change except for the areas you ask it to change. So I'm gonna.
I have had it automatically go into that.
It will.
And it's super annoying because I'm actually trying to prompt it for something prior to that.
Right.
Not even referencing the thing it auto built out. And then I'm like spending 10 minutes and I just give up and I start a whole new chat.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any recommendations you'd have there?
I think, okay, 2 things. I've had it do the same thing where it pops over to Canvas. You can just close it like I just did and just kind of, and just say, you can even say, don't go to Canvas and put my next prompt in. But there's another way if you want to really avoid it, like you're working on something you want to make sure, is come back up to your customize, I believe it's here, and customize ChatGPT and then go to advanced. And it's going to show the ChatGPT capabilities. You could turn Canvas off. And just make sure, like maybe you do that on a daily basis, just for today I don't want Canvas, maybe tomorrow I do, then that way it's not going to switch to it automatically. So that's a way you could explore that.
Thank you.
So, yeah, of course.
Can you use deep research inside of Canvas?
I have not played with that, and it's a really good question. Let's see if our deep research is finished. I think that it has finished. One thing that I think ChatGPT really gets challenged on is when you have a very long text or it's got this long output, like deep research output, and then you want to keep iterating on it. I don't think it excels there
I was
yet.
gonna say, because
Yeah.
the reports are nice,
Yeah.
but there's also sometimes you're gonna like, I don't want that in there, I don't
Yeah.
want that in there, or like I changed this.
Let's
slightly.
just try it.
But
Let's
you know what
try it.
I've done to
Okay.
maybe override that, I don't know,
Yep.
at all, you know, it's my stupid way of, is you notice when it starts to fail on you.
Mhm.
So I just go back up to the one that it hadn't failed yet.
Yes.
Copy that, start a new chat, start
Yes.
over, instantly, it's 10 times better.
I think you have to do that sometimes.
Because if you
Like,
don't,
yes.
it's like the fifth, sixth, seventh iteration of something complicated, it's lost, it's back to doing crazy stuff.
It is. It's just like loops, you know,
If
and
it
it's
does start over with like, it's a
right.
fresh text, we just started. and
That's exactly
maybe I
right.
Reprompted or.
Yes.
You're right, it seems like it starts fresh again and having.
I think so too, and that's the advice I would have given you. So yeah, you're doing it already. So let me kind of go through what this deep research output looks like, and then we'll just test it in Canvas and see what happens. So Alliance Nursing, expansion feasibility, Boise private duty nursing, and group homes. So it kind of has an introduction. It gives us a review of market size. These little links, they're the reference links. So you can click straight through to them. It embeds those automatically, so you can go validate your data if you want. It's embedded a chart for us. I'm not going to read this all to you, obviously, but I'm happy to send this your way if it's something you're interested in. Just shoot me your email, and I'm happy to do that. So key competitors in Boise and surrounding areas. So it's got a rundown of different potential competitors in the area, competitive insights, and then medically complex group homes and facilities. Again, it's got a list of different competitors that would be there and competitive insights. Medicaid reimbursement landscape in Idaho. And so it digs into the different categories where that would be applicable. And then demographics and customer segment. Modify 3 lines, and this allows me to do that versus it just outputting a whole new set of job requirements that maybe I liked what I had before. So it makes it more efficient. It gives you, more productive output. So anyway, so there we go. So that's a good experiment. You can utilize Canvas to an extent, it looks like, with deep research. And again, to close out of Canvas, you just hit this little X, and it looks like it didn't embed it into our original report, but it did give us a whole section just on the conclusion being expanded. So that's a nice way to layer those tools together. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can show you guys a couple other things that maybe you haven't seen before. And we looked at that. Okay, have you guys looked at tasks at all? Has anybody played with tasks? All right. So tasks is really a tool that's in development, and it's another one of these like early agentic tools that ChatGPT is rolling out. It is not perfect, so it's hidden up here under the little icon, and
Sorry, team, but I've lost your audio. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay.
I get that code.
I think so. I think it's just, I think unfortunately that's gonna require just some real intensive, like, carrying people along, a little bit of hand holding. We kind of call it white glove treatment, right, for some of the folks. And I think if you can find one person who can be your advocate, that will help you a lot. Like, you need a turbo fill basket is what, that's what I'm hearing, so, or his junior. But, yeah, I think that's the best simple advice I can give you.
In my mind, I go more aggressive on this. Basically, we're in a such fundamental transformation. If our staff doesn't do it, it's their own stuff. Own team. And basically, next 5 years, our teams are people plus AI. They need to learn in that mode. If they are not working in that mode, they are just not doing it.
Yeah, and I agree with you totally, but I also think part of that conversation that we had earlier, just like, I'm not deploying this to replace you. This is meant to augment your job and to make it so you can do more of the satisfying work that you enjoy. I think maybe for a lot of people that can be reassuring. I don't know that that solves the problem every time, but it can be a helpful conversation. Yeah.
In startup world, people get one person company. Right?
Yeah.
That's just what's happening outside there. Yeah. I'm agreeing with your point that you said earlier, right? We need to train people. But I think people need to be on a strong sense of
It's a fundamental shift. I totally agree with you. And I think all of us are using it enough that we see that already. You know, we see that it changes things.
I guess have people actually built that into job descriptions or?
Yes,
Or advertisements or
Yes.
searches?
yes, more and more.
Like before it's like knowledge of Word or something. stupid.
Right, exactly,
Like, you know,
exactly.
like what's that in?
Right, but I think the same thing, exactly, and it's quickly evolving, right? So you might have once said, I need somebody who's an expert in prompt engineering, that's probably not the requirement you would have anymore,
Right.
and that's still only been a year or two that, you know, that's even maybe been out there, so. Yes, but I think it's important to start incorporating it.
And I think the reason I asked about agentic AI,
Yes.
talk about later, is that this is, we're talking about productivity, right? Where there's a productivity tool for people.
Definitely.
Agentic AI is the replacement of like 50% of what that person does. Pretty much, so it's like a part of the role. So it's much more fundamental than productivity. People need to learn to work with AI to hand by hand where AI can do a tasks that AI cannot do. So the workflow right now, you as a person work when you use this for some documents. But if you look at the corporate flow, there is a workflow, right? Break it apart. This part's are done with AI, and in a couple of years, AI will delegate that to humans.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and that is part of the bigger conversation. I have a break scheduled here, if we want to take 10 minutes, and,
That'd be great.
And we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Okay, super.
we're back on.
Thanks, guys. Okay. I hope that was helpful. The ChatGPT demo, I know everyone's using it, but hopefully it showed you some things you hadn't seen before.
It made me feel like I was doing it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I know, right? There was some options in there. I'm like, if I use this, hey.
Yeah. There's some really great tools. So
It also shows that it's not just us.
exactly. It makes me not feel good during a demo, but yes, it's definitely not just you. So you may already be aware, Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI. And the reason I bring that up is because this Microsoft 365 Copilot universe relies on that OpenAI technology, but they don't always have the latest model. In fact, they don't have the latest model. So people will say, I tried Copilot, it wasn't as good as ChatGPT, and that's true. It's just they are using fundamentally the same technology, but not always the same iteration. So you look
Isn't there, you might get to this, but doesn't it look like, I don't know, I just look at the news and stuff, and it seems like that relationship is slowly going south.
It is really fun to watch. Yes, exactly. Because this exact thing, like they want the latest, Microsoft wants the latest release from OpenAI, and OpenAI is like, nope, screw you. And so it is like going south quickly in the news, very publicly. I agree with you. So it's interesting to watch. It's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. But sorry, let me keep that up a tiny bit. I'm going to show you just a quick video. It's from the Wave 2 release of the Microsoft 365 Copilot product. And basically what you'll see, but it paints the picture of what Microsoft 365 can do in your business and how that can help you with productivity.
Today, we are announcing Wave 2 of Microsoft 365 Copilot. You can think of Copilot as the UI for AI.
Can we get the sound back up?
You had it before.
Yeah, I think your computer fell.
Oh,
I don't know if that's what happened. I'm still here on the port. Let's see.
I can change it to. Where's it playing now?
It seems to be over the.
I don't know.
It's okay. We appreciate.
Working on your own with colleagues.
Okay. Good.
Question.